We're ready.
Children or grandchildren were in an automobile wreck yesterday.
Everyone, Marlboro County School Board Workshop, Monday, March 12th, 2018, is called to order. Mr. Coachman, would you please have an invocation for us?
Gracious eternal God and Father, Lord God, we just like to thank you for gathering your people today. I ask you, Heavenly Father, go with us as we go to take care of the business of your district for your children, administrators, and teachers. I ask you to bless each and every one of us, Heavenly Father. Strengthen us, Heavenly Father, and band us together, Heavenly Father, in unity so we'll be able to take care of the district and your children in a positive way. These are all the blessings I do pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. There's been notice of the meeting with the Marlboro Herald, and they are represented, and I need a motion to approve the workshop agenda.
Madam Chairman, I move to accept the workshop agenda.
I second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. And all opposed? Ms. Fleming, did you vote with us or not?
I'm in favor.
You're in favor. Okay, so it's unanimous. Thank you. And the topic is facilities. And I don't know if I should call on Ms. Owenation, who's the committee chairman, or Mr. Park, but I'm presuming Mr. Park.
Go ahead, Don.
Well, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Lane. You have before you a facilities update, as I've termed this, and what I want to do is just kind of give you an overview of where we're at this point in time, and then looking at the progress that we've made really since 2006, because I'm sure you all recall in 2006 we had a failed bond referendum in the amount of $66 million. Since then, this is what's transpired. And that referendum was November 2006. And of course, the $66 million bond referendum was held in a gubernatorial election. Okay, next. Since then, in 2007, a $10 million installment purchase revenue bond was issued to the district, and from that $10 million installment purchase revenue bond, the Clio Elementary Middle School was rebuilt. Now, of course, I think some of this came from insurance proceeds, but the balance came through that $10 million installment purchase bond. There were new facades and entrances that were constructed at Marlboro County High School, Bennettsville Intermediate School, and Bennettsville Primary. There was extensive roofing projects at Marlboro County High School. There was some paving that was done in conjunction with the Department of Transportation. And
is that roofing and paving at Marlboro County High School? Okay.
Yes, sir. And HVAC in the commons and the gymnasium. So that covers a lot of course, we did classroom renovations and such as well. We did everything we possibly could with that $10 million installment revenue purchase bond. Okay, next. Yes.
Installment purchase revenue bond. That was not a referendum.
That was not a referendum, because as you recall, in 2006, that form of financing was still a legal form of financing that did not require voter approval. That was still available for real estate at that point in time, and it did not require the voters' approval. And this was done, I guess, as an alternate as a result of the fact that the main referendum did not pass. And so I wasn't here at that time, but I'm guessing the thought was, well, we've got some definite needs that we've got to address, and that amount was issued so that we could the district could address those immediate needs. Okay.
That type of financing is not available now.
It is not. If
There are
it's done, it would require us either to go through a referendum or to use our 8% debt limit. You can still issue installment purchase revenue bonds, but it does require either voter approval, depending on the dollar volume, or it would require us to utilize our 8% limit, of which neither of those applied in the 2007. Okay. In 2010, an $18 million qualified school construction bond was issued for the Blenheim Elementary Middle School. And in 2013, an additional 3.6 special obligation bond was issued to complete the project. The project came in excess of budget, and so this was used to provide for the equipment elements that are part of that school. That is HVAC, things like furniture, equipment is eligible for special obligation bonding. And that did not require use of our 8% limit. Next. 2014, the district issued $20 million of general obligation bonds for the Wallace Elementary Middle School. And of course, that project has been completed since. Next. Here's where we are right at this point in time. In 2018, a $2 million bond anticipation note has been authorized by the board, and of course we will close on that financing within the next couple months. At some point in time in 2018, we expect the voters to approve a $10 million general obligation bond to make those improvements at Bennettsville Intermediate School.
Mr. Park, on that $2 million, could you explain to me again what we're going to utilize that $2 million for?
Well, what we're going to utilize those funds for, and there again, we may not need the full amount, but we are going to utilize the funds to pay for architectural services. If there's any delay with construction, we can utilize that for renovations at Bennettsville Intermediate School. So that is all going to be a part of, hopefully it's all going to be a part of a $10 million bond issue.
So that would give us basically $12 million.
It's only going to give us 10. It's only going to give us 10.
It's subtracted.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So that has to come out of the 10.
Okay.
Okay, right.
Next.
We're just borrowing it for right now until the bond referendum.
Right.
Okay, if we look at a recap of financing initiatives since 2006, you can see if the Bennettsville Intermediate School referendum is approved, we will have issued $61.6 million, and you can see that's very close to the initial expectation in terms of the 2006 referendum that targeted $66 million.
But the $66 million would have covered every school in the district, is that correct?
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what was included in that, but certainly I understood there were several schools that were included.
All of them that needed it.
Okay, next.
There were some reservations about the high school. That did not include everything that was needed at the high school, but it did have some things to do there.
But do we know what all needed at high school?
We'll get to that.
Okay. Let me give you an idea with what we've done at this point in time, just in terms of facilities. You can see we feel like we've completed the projects at Clio, Blenheim, and Wallace. I know there's always some incidental things that are, such as athletic fields and such. We look, next slide.
Wait a minute. Go back to that slide. Now, what all you complete? You say you completed everything at Clio?
Well, I know there's some things on a list, but for the most part, that's a new school. We've got a new school in Clio, Blenheim, and Wallace.
you said, I'm looking at this, what are you saying, that the whole stuff that at Clio Elementary School has been completed?
What I'm saying here, for the most part, substantially complete, Clio, Blenheim, and Wallace.
That's
They're
what
going
we
to school in a new building.
Otherwise, we spent all the money we borrowed on Clio.
Right.
We spent all the money we borrowed for Clio on Clio.
It's complete, because we got some stuff that need to get done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Artemis, that's called maintenance. There's
Yeah.
some stuff at Blenheim that needs to be
Yeah,
done, and it's
yeah.
just got built. Probably the only school that is in fairly decent shape is Wallace, just because it's the least
Just
amount of
got
time.
through.
So I know what you're saying. There are things that need to be done at all of the schools.
Okay, next. These are things that I understand we're trying to do, and that is to bring BIS up to standard, demolish the rear portion of the school, add a new kitchen, cafeteria, and classrooms at the Bennettsville Intermediate
What about the
School.
auditorium? Not this.
And of course, yeah, renovation as well. Renovation of the auditorium, renovation of bathrooms. There are other portions of renovations that need to be a part of that $10 million initiative.
Okay, how many classes do you plan to demolish on the, right now?
We're looking at the rear wing, the 5th and 6th grade wing, and the old, I guess what was
I just
the,
wondered, does anybody know how many classrooms? Because that, with the population dropping so much in our county,
sure.
and then you come back, you're going to demolish them, and then you're going to build them back.
Well, what we're talking about is of course, build them in a different location we're expecting anyway.
But my question, so that's, I'm saying, does anybody know how many classrooms are back there that's going to be demolished? Mr. McLeod, do you have any idea?
I think there's 10.
It's 10 classrooms?
Back on the fifth grade, we'll take the sixth grade hall out as well. There's more.
At some point in time, the 6th grade hall, I think there are a number of spaces that are still being utilized in the 6th grade hall.
Yeah, quite a few. I've been out there. So I'm thinking that the demolishment will probably just
Start
be
with
the
the
fifth
fifth
grade,
and
and we'll see
the-
where we go with that.
In the old, I guess it was a special ed building,
Yes,
or,
that building.
yeah.
Her point is well taken in terms of
Certainly.
what we are, and we can renovate some of that, and that's part of what I hope our discussion will get to tonight. Is there something we can save? But your question about population, we've moved the 6th grade to Blenheim. So we need that the 5th grade, we know next year is going to be larger than it is this year, believe it or not, even though our population is down.
Correct.
Isn't it, it's 118 now, and it's going to be what, 189 next year? So our actual 5th grade, we're going to increase the population overall at BIS, is that right? What's going to go on with the 3rd and 4th grades? Do we know at this time?
Those should be very close to the same. I think what we're seeing right around 120 to 130 children in each class, except for that one larger 5th
Which is
grade class.
185.
Yes.
So we're looking at 425 kids
But
in
now,
that building.
let me point out something. These children will not be at BIS next year.
Terrific.
We're talking 2020.
Exactly.
Exactly
Exactly
what
right.
size we're going, how many children are going to show up next year? They're not going to be out at BIS.
No, but you may have another 2nd grade class that's coming up, and, you know, we got to look.
2
at those
years
numbers,
away.
too.
I mean, I'm not trying to be anything out of the way, I'm just saying, I know what you're saying, you got to prepare for them, but we can't base it on the numbers we have now, because
No, you're right
those
about
numbers
that.
will not be in play at that time.
But I am saying that the numbers are not necessarily going down in every grade level. That's what I'm saying, which is good.
Certainly.
But I'm saying we look at the future, and we've done, if you have, say, 20 classrooms now, and you look at your projections, what you've had for the last 5 or 10 years, and see where the trend's going, do you need to build that many classrooms?
We don't need to build that many additional classrooms to replace what we have, because we're going to end up with fewer students at the intermediate school.
That's correct, because it's already been proven to us 2 or 3 times that our children
Our enrollment
expectation
is-
is going down
Yeah.
each year.
Give you an idea, Mr. Toole just gave me this this enrollment, and this is as of December 4th. There were 165 children in third grade. In second grade, there's only 135, so there's a 30, there are 30 children less in third, in second than there are in third and fourth grade. There's 157. However, in fifth grade, there's only 114. So, of course, that 114 has already gone to Clio, and the 157 in fourth grade, assuming they all transfer, will go to Clio as well in the 18-19 year. So,
and that's what we realize when we look back, we might have made them a little too big. And of course, we're utilizing that space. But
now we are.
It's a lot of the transportation, and then that was a problem with some parents. But I think when we do this, if we look at, build what we need, because
not more than.
Not more than. And,
yes.
And just don't replace everything that was back there if it's not need for it.
No, we can't do that. And there's more footage in the rear of the building than we're talking about in terms of the replacement.
Okay, you look at, you said you're going to redo the auditorium. Is that part of the plan?
That is correct.
Okay,
rehab the auditorium.
Rehab the auditorium. So
yes.
Everything would be rehabbed at that building. But you tear down, what would that be?
Whatever. I know that there's probably some things in classrooms that.
Too much in the library part. That portion is pretty good.
It is.
And but then when you go back with the gym and the auditorium, all that back part is what you plan to renovate.
Well, actually, behind the fifth grade hall will definitely be coming down. That will be eliminated. And as well as there's an old, looked like some type of storage facility that was there. That will be definitely demolished as well.
My point is that don't build it too big.
Correct.
The census data moves that out.
Okay. Next. These are some issues that we haven't addressed, and we know that the high school needs a fair amount of rehabilitation. There are issues at School Discovery, whether or not that may just be roofing and some other expenditures there. We have certain classrooms and other renovations that need to be addressed at the primary school, at McCall, and we all know that our playgrounds aren't where they need to be. We've got issues with sports fields as well that haven't been addressed.
When that $10,000 grant,
$10 million.
$10 million, excuse me, was in, wasn't there something in that each school had to receive a certain amount, or was that another?
There were identified schools that had to be a part of, there was a requirement that at least, and I believe the expenditure was somewhere around $300,000 or so, that had to be incurred at certain schools that were actually a part of the lease purchase agreement, and I believe McCall was one of those schools. And of course,
it wasn't done.
Well, I'll have to look and see. We did.
It ended up on top of the high school. I know $54,000. I know the $54,000 for the playground ended up on top of the high school.
On the roof, he's talking about.
I think you had to replace some HVAC units or something, or some leaking or something. Anyway.
I think we did some classroom renovations. We also did some.
There's a gym down there too, it's called the floor, the bleachers.
I'm confident we spent at least $300,000. It may have been more like $500,000. some of the schools we certainly spent a lot more on, this high school being one of them, and Clio as well.
Okay. I just knew there were some schools that were part of that.
And part of the reasoning for that was these schools are used as collateral
Yeah,
in
yeah.
an installment. It's a little
That's
bit different
correct.
situation, so we had to make sure they were in pretty good shape.
So, Mr. Park, it's safe to say this, the handout you gave us, the things in yellow, these are the things that have been done?
I believe, Dr. McLeod, I know we're working from your worksheets later. Those are the
Ones in yellow,
have been completed.
those in yellow, some of them are color complete and some of them are kind of half.
Right, okay,
So that means the work has been done in those areas.
okay, thank you, sir.
And we appreciate this list, which he has provided us twice, at least, that I know of.
Correct. Okay, next slide. You know, other things that we've not done, but we can do with limited funds, and one of the things is dispose of or auction mobile units at the intermediate school, for example, or the primary school. We've got quite a number of mobile units still in place. We need to hold another large salvage sale as well. I'm seeing, we just did a walkthrough at Bennettsville Intermediate School, because one of the thoughts was we need to get an idea of, after the renovations are done, after the addition, assuming taxpayers approve, how are we going to equip those rooms? We're trying to determine what type of furniture is actually in place at this point in time. And I know when we walk through a number of those rooms, lots of things just being stored, and they're probably somewhat potentially a hazard, as well as just, you know, wanting to clean up some things. They're just in storage there. The rooms are not being utilized, for example, on that fifth grade hall. And so these are some things that we can do regarding facilities that don't cost us any money. Hopefully would actually generate a little bit of proceeds from. Other facility issues, one of the big questions I've got in my mind is, what is the plan for Bennettsville Elementary School at the Lake, the former Bennettsville Elementary School at the Lake? You know, of course, I know that Infinity is located there in a small portion of that facility, but the remainder of the facility is certainly not utilized, other than just, for the most part, just storage.
Mr. Parks, is keeping the Infinity School there, keeping the insurance charges down for the whole school, or just for the part they're using?
Well, it actually, so far, our insurance company hasn't made an issue about the fact that the balance of the building is unoccupied. I would like to be able to keep them away from that site, because the last thing...
Of course, it just went on the internet.
All right.
Oh, well, maybe you don't want to mention that.
The last thing that an insurance company wants to do is to insure a building that has limited occupancy and is predominantly storage. So that, and then also there's a cost of flood insurance there at that location as well. So, those are expenses that the district is incurring that we're, I think, getting fairly limited value from.
At some point, could you get the amount of the insurance and the flood insurance for that building?
I'll do
Thank
that,
you.
and try to give you a recap on some other costs, but,
Okay.
And also, while we're doing just our cost for utilities and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, the whole expense of that
certainly,
building.
the whole cost.
Yeah.
Very good.
Mr. Park, before you walk away. Now, I've heard a number during our meetings of around 7 million for what we're anticipating out at BIS.
Correct.
Is that 7 million with the 2 million included, so we'd have 3 million left over? Is that 7 million with the 2 million not included, where it would cost us 9 million?
Well, no, the 7 million is just for the new construction portion of
So
the
it's 7
project.
million plus the 2.
And what we're expecting is that it's going to cost about $3 million in renovations to make up a $10 million project. But what you have approved was a bond anticipation note for $2 million, so that if there are other things that we can accomplish prior to actually starting the construction, and also not having to pay for the full cost of that $10 million financing until we actually need it. So there is an advantage in doing a bond anticipation note, getting a portion of the money up front, and then not having to pay for the full amount of the financing until a point later in the project.
Okay, I'm a little bit lost. I get lost.
Okay.
But you just said
The
7 million.
7 million, the total project cost is expected to be 10 million.
Yeah.
We're thinking 7 million for the new construction.
Actual construction. of the
Actual
new building.
construction of the new building, and then needing $3 million to do renovations.
So that is the whole 10 million.
That's a whole 10. That's a whole 10.
There's no more money going.
There's no more than that.
Every penny of this $10 million will be spent at BIS, is what you're telling
I think
me.
it's going to need to be, and
Okay.
we'll talk a little bit later. We're going to request that you approve 2 bids at the regular meeting. We did bid the HVAC as well as the roof thing contractors, and so those numbers are back. And one of the things we have seen, I think the cost of construction is a little bit higher than we might have initially expected.
Now, you're saying the roofing, you have the money for the roofing, is that correct?
That is correct. That's really a part of the Abbeville funds. We've got a little less than $1.2 million.
So that will cover the roofing at BIS?
Roofing and the HVAC were actually, those 2 elements were a little over budget, so we're going to, with just those 2 elements.
So
We were
again, so I
hoping-
understand, if we just decide we're just going to use a part of the building that we've worked on, no additions, no tearing down, just use that part of the building, we're okay with just that part of the building. The part that was built in the late 80s. that we
Right,
worked on.
correct.
That part of the building is serviceable, and we're okay with that part of the building.
That is correct.
If we want to do something else with that building at some point in time. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Park, along those lines, when we were looking at it, the roof has come in at about what we estimated.
That is correct. The
That
roofing has
bidding
come
has come in
in,
about what we estimated, like
I think,
$650.
right on the mark. I think
Right.
we said $625, it came in at $650. What was a surprise was how expensive the HVAC was, and I think that's a difference between rooftop units versus the barred units, which
But
are...
even so, I have some big buildings, and we put them in different places. I was looking, as we had discussed, I think they're looking at about 7,000. I was looking at 5,500. It's about $1,500 more, and all of those units.
ton.
Do we need all of those units for that building? I'm only asking about it because it is about what? How much more than we thought it would be?
Well, I think it's about twice what we originally thought.
This was on the
And,
HVAC stuff. What
on
was?
the HVAC, because it's coming in at 540.
If you try to supply air conditioning and those things,
No, you
you're going to
don't.
end up with a humidity problem,
Right.
and then we would end up
And
with mold.
And
We don't have it now.
we trust the engineers' computations associated with sizing the units and all the components that are within. But
I'm
I
just
was...
raising that question because it's double what we had anticipated. I know construction costs have gone up, but that was based on what was there, and that may be part of the problem. You make a good point there, but
So your
I'm raising the question because,
the plan is to take all those things off the roof.
Yeah.
When
Correct.
you see 40 or 50, maybe it's only 20, but it looks like 40 or 50. Those will be gone, and you just have one single unit.
No, we'll have a series of units there, but they'll be all brand-new
On the
units. No, on,
Be on
the
the
roof. And there's a procedure that they use to do that installation and to make sure that everything is sealed and all of that. I was kind of impressed with
What they said they were doing.
You know, what they talked about, the procedures, how it would be done.
Well, you got multiple bids and they were all pretty tight.
They were. That's a great point. Thank you.
It's just the
because-
anticipation was wrong.
I know,
Right.
Those folks were not wrong.
right.
Your surmising was.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, based on the units that were there and what they should have cost. But we've always had problems with flat roofs. Here we're going, we're spending $1.2 million for a flat roof and HVAC on the flat roof. So I'm concerned about future leaks and that kind of thing, you know, and I didn't know if we had explored any other alternative to having HVAC on the roof. And I am not a construction person, we may not have that option, but I know we've had a lot of problems with that roof for a lot of those reasons. So you were impressed with what they told you, how it ain't gonna leak? Ain't gonna leak no more?
I was, and certainly I think we've got an excellent warranty with
Great, and that will be helpful.
and there was also a pre-qualification for the roofers. So it's not as if there were contractors that were able to bid this job that didn't have the capacity, the experience, and
Okay.
I think we've
I
got
just wanted to raise
excellent
it, Leslie,
contractors.
because this is the time for us to decide, do we want to do it any differently? And I guess our construction experts have said this is a good way to go. Tim, don't go to sleep on us. In terms of the HVAC and everything, you're pretty comfortable with it, Mr. Brown? And I'm going to ask Mr. McLeod the same thing. With what they're proposing to do with the roof, HVAC and all.
This roof is 33 to 34 years old. The roof that's on there existing. Roof drains we noticed today during the rain when we were out there.
Yeah.
Every third roof drain wasn't draining. And the others were gushing out and several were not. So that contributes and adds to your problems on that roof.
And that's what this is going to fix, right?
That is correct.
Does that include anything about weep holes that we've heard so much about? Is that included in this? That's going to be separate.
That would be separate. That is correct.
Okay.
I hope that we can develop a culture here that has maintenance in big bold letters, that we maintain things and take care of them, not anticipating, well, if we let this go enough, we'll get to build a new school. We need to take care of what we've got and do it on a regular basis. It's much cheaper.
Certainly. Okay, that's my part of the presentation. I don't know whether or not you want to talk about the school evaluation sheets. I know that Dr. McLeod has worked on those, and I've got copies up here if you wanted to kind of lead that discussion.
Okay, here we go.
This is the capital improvement needs that
Yeah,
the list
yeah.
that we
Right.
came up with.
I thought we had a different thing for the school evaluation, but I see it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay. All right. So Dr. McLeod's going to do that?
Dr. McLeod, would you like to discuss the school evaluation sheets that you sent?
I think it's self-explanatory.
Okay. All right.
I kind of agree with you, because
Yeah.
you just told me I
All
didn't have
right.
any more money.
I don't know if there's any questions, certainly.
If I don't have any money, I don't know what I can do with them.
That's the other issue. I think one of the things I kind of illustrated is, and I wanted to illustrate, is this is where we've gone with our ability to pay for the items that we are talking about without having to either impact our existing budget, which would, or future budgets. We don't have, I think we're going to be very challenged to address any facility needs out of our existing budget that we've got coming up. We just got the numbers in Friday on what our revenues look like on the Ways and Means, as well as we just have the new teacher salary schedule. So I've got a lot of questions. 2 weeks from now, I plan on doing a budget workshop with you. We'll have the first look at where we are in the 18-19 year, and I think we can have, certainly further discussion at that point in time. But it's going to be really challenging, I think, for us to be able to balance the 18-19 budget.
One more quick question. Until we form the question for the referendum, we still have lateral movement that we can move around on, or it is going to be designated, and that's not designated as far as what this money will be used until that moment, correct?
You adopt the question, and certainly the public has to approve it. And I know you've got a responsibility to the public to be able to do what the question asks. So keep that in mind. Okay. And I think one of the things that we have seen is increased cost of construction.
Dr. McLeod, there's a red marker, one of them, replace countertops in biology and physics lab. Is that? That needs to be done. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was guessing, but I didn't know if.
That one needs to be done yesterday.
Okay.
And along with Danny's statement about there is no money out of the 10 million for other things, and you're telling us in our budget planning that it's going to be difficult for us to maintain our we have about 500,000 that we've been allocating for general maintenance throughout the whole district.
Right.
That's what has come in on an annual basis, and one of the things that will happen, assuming the public approves the referendum, that number will actually get a little bit smaller than that, because we're going to need some of the amounts that we use for capital maintenance to be able to just pay the interest on this obligation. So we need to keep that in focus as well. We have had about $500,000 in recent years to be able to utilize that towards capital maintenance. But when in the presentation, last, I guess it was either last week before, we looked at all the revenue that we have and all the anticipated expenditures. You could see what the difference was. It was about $7 million over 20 years. So that cuts it down on average to about $350,000 a year rather than $500,000. And a lot has to do with other communities may not experience some of the things that we have here. If they've got growth in assessed value, we haven't seen the kind of growth that would help to pay for improvements the way other communities. In fact, it was interesting. I went to my conference last week, and I was sitting across from the CFO at Horry County, and we're talking, and I said, "Hey, what's your debt service millage?" He said, 10.
Oh,
we're 33. And then he said, "Well, but we've got the education penny, which is what we have." He said, "We generate about $80,000 a year off of that education penny. We generate 1.4 million." So he said, "Hey, if we could get 20 mills, we could get everything we could ever want. But it's, and they've got very low operating millage, but it's because of the massive valuation that they have.
On property.
On property, it's incredible. And then when you look at the ability to pick up a penny on every single sale in Myrtle Beach, hotels, everything else, it makes a huge difference. So,
Mr. Parks, like Ms. Parson just pointed out about what was in red that must be done. If there's any things that we really need to be done, like some things at the high school and other places that darn need to be done, we don't have no capital for that.
very limited.
I want to give you an example. I was at a high school game and the whole PA system went out, clocks went out, and high school league has been on us about that. We won't have no money or nowhere to try to, repair that.
We're going to have to be very careful with that. I know that it's going to have to be a part of our capital budget for this year.
I'm just trying to throw out there that was really
Certainly.
affecting the school needs.
Certainly.
Yeah,
we
that's all.
want to address the things that are really critical. Yes, sir.
And that's what this workshop's about. I think there may be some issues that we as board members want to at least ask about. I have one about the high school as well, and that has to do with ingress and egress in the doors. Several of them around the high school, several members of the faculty have expressed some concern about them, and I'm going to try to find out exactly what that is from Dr. McLeod. I think the problem is you can get in, but you can't always get out. For safety reasons, we're probably locking some of these doors, but Dr. McLeod, I'll get with you on that. This just occurred this week, and one of the issues was dirt coming up to some doors and making them very difficult to open. So I was asking them to pinpoint that for me. That concerned me with all of the things we have going on. I want to be sure that our exits and our entrances are safe and they are operating as we want them to, in terms of lockdown or when the kids need to get out for fire drills or anything else. So I will bring that. There are apparently 4 sets of 2 doors that are problematic. And as soon as I know where they are, I'll share that with you. And this is from some teachers and some assistant principals. And the other part of that is that the roof, as we know, we put money into it with the installment situation, but Dr. McLeod has told us we've done a pretty good job on the roof here at the high school. What do you think about that? Because that will cause many problems. Where is that in cost for the high school, for the roof?
That back set?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Over the back walkway and stuff, see that part wasn't replaced with the rest of it. So that's what needs to be replaced now.
Okay.
Now, we just had it, repaired.
Right.
And it's kind of limping along right now, but how long it's gonna limp, we don't know.
Do we have an estimate for what it would cost to fix that? I just didn't see that here, so I was wondering.
It's not in there.
Okay.
We had one estimate, that's why we chose to
Repair it.
That one estimate, if I remember correctly, was about $60,000.
60, okay. That's a safety feature, that particular thing, because it caved in, I believe, isn't that why we had to fix it? Is that right?
It was leaking. It was
Right.
leaking in the locker room.
Yeah.
Let's go on around the room. Mr. Woods, would you go next, please? And any of the things that you want to bring them up now.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm looking at Clio.
Okay.
Cameras around the building. I know they've been asking for locker rooms. I see that a lot has been done. But these are the things I would like to see could we get done for Clio and all of the things that we can. I know we're very limited in funds, but whatever we need to do to make our kids safe. I'm really concerned about the cameras. Parents have shared their concerns about the locker rooms and restrooms for sports. But whatever we can do to try to get that done. I'm concerned about the marquees of all the schools. And it was brought to our attention, I don't know if this is true or not, about the camera system here at the high school is not working properly. Just those are the things. I'm really just concerned about things that we really need to address that will help us. Not what we want, but what we need to address to make our facilities better.
No, it was, I'm gonna go back to, this is probably, Tim will probably look at me and say, no way, and it may be. But I was wondering, when we started talking about the flat roof, part of the renovated part of McCall that had a flat roof, they put a metal roof over it. They left the roof right where it was and put a metal roof over it and made mezzanines where they put the HVAC units and so forth, and they're in mezzanines. What would a metal roof, in relationship to repairing all of this roof, what would a metal roof with a slope on it do in terms of money?
That's probably something you have to get the estimate on.
No, it's a good question. I asked it earlier.
Constructing trusses to go over that span would be your first hurdle, and then obviously the metal would be put on top of those trusses. Your HVAC systems are in each individual classroom present. There's a plenum chamber under the suspended ceiling, so the hallways get air conditioned, and also the classrooms with the same units. Cold air return is taken from the entire underneath the suspended ceiling, not just individual rooms. So you're talking about redesigning everything that it was designed for. So I suspect it would cost, and I don't know the cost numbers, I couldn't even estimate what it would be, but it would be at least what this would be, or more, I would think.
Think about the future, like you said, I hope the man that invented the flat roof is buried in a flat coffin. It's gonna leak on him, I tell you.
You may remember that we brought that up when we first started talking about this roof. Was there some alternative to a flat roof? You know, we were talking about going back now with the covering, and you're thinking of the way it's designed would be problematic for that. And the reason is because we have replaced these roofs and they keep leaking, you know.
But the first thing you'd have to do is go back to the original plans and specify our drawings to determine the amount of weight you would be adding to that structure, whether it's structurally built.
Sound.
Yeah. I just can't answer that without looking at those plans and having an engineer take a look at those. But it was designed for a flat roof. And again, that roof has lasted 33, 34 years since that one's been replaced. It's been there a while. Usually a 20, 25-year life is about all you can get out of a two-ply system that's on there now.
Is that all, Mr. Norton?
Well, I'm kind of like Reverend Woods. I hope we can get some maintenance, some of the minor, I'll call it minor, everything's expensive, but so some of the minor things done, and certainly I would like to look at a traffic loop or a traffic flow in McCall at some point. Maybe we can get some help through DOJ or someone. I'm not DOJ, but DOT. We need DOJ as well, but DOT, and see if we couldn't, because I believe we could utilize some of the what is referred to as the access road that goes around the back of the school. If you come in the back, there's it's referred to as a track.
I think he's trying to get that on the screen. What is it called? 1501.
That's right, that's exactly right.
381, it'll take you to McCall.
Well, that's okay, Mackie. I know where that road is. I've been back there plenty.
That, if you come in from the back of the school, where the buses come in now, and go down to where they play ball, there's a track around it, okay? It would be a single road, a lane road coming in, but with just a little pavement, you could connect it, come around the back, and go all the way back around to the parking lot on the other side. It would be easier for me to walk it or show it to you. I showed Dr. Lane when we walked.
One thing you have to keep in mind is that the Department of Transportation's got to approve a bus loop for a school. And your buses and your car traffic can't use the same road. So they have to approve what you design. Now, if you can bring your traffic around, you may have to switch your buses, but something would have to change. I don't know where do your buses drop off now?
They drop off in the back, at the back of the cafeteria. You've got but we purchased several years ago, or the board did, a lot, if you remember.
I remember.
That would allow perhaps another road right beside it with a median. You can make a median.
Yes.
You can make a median there.
So that's just one of the questions you'd have to, but I can take a look at it. I'm happy to.
Okay, sometime we'll show you what I'm talking about.
Ms. Fleming?
I didn't see anything in here with the evaluations for the School of Discovery.
Didn't have one.
You didn't do,
Didn't do one.
can I ask why?
Because that 96, 7-year-old building, you'll be trying to get out of it. And the size of that moat that's up under that auditorium, you're talking about major money. So that basement, we've got a sump pump down there as we speak that runs all the time.
Does it keep the water out?
It keeps it out pretty good, but the water keeps coming back.
That's why you need a sump pump,
Well,
because the water keeps coming back.
I think it's, and I appreciate that, I know the age of the building, but it's still our, still the board's responsibility. And we know we've heard about some of the sump pump, as well as when the windows fall out, you can't replace the panes, and when the panes, because of the rotting of the wood, and although structurally, it's a brick structure, it would be, if it had been maintained, but it hasn't been. And as a board member, I don't know, we need to maybe just look at doing something with that building or doing something with those students. And that's a concern of mine, as well as you talking about the roof. Ever since I've been on this board, it's been the flat roof. And now we're going back and we do another flat roof. I know if you do a hip roof, a hip house, it's expensive, and the water can kind of come down and slant. But we said another flat roof, and ever since we come from every school, every time there's a problem with the roof, we have all these flat roofs. It's expensive, but it's been problematic in the past, very problematic, and I don't keep up with it. But anyone that does this, Mr. McLeod, you do it all the time. You do maintenance, and I don't know whether I'm just not at this new BIS, the thing that we're attempting to do, want us to vote on tonight, and we have the funds for it to do the roof. I'd just rather do it right. Do it right for a change. R-I-G-H-T, and to anticipate, we're maybe kind of anticipating problems down the road, because I've heard enough about flat roofs, and you give us the age of it, but still, that's a concern of mine. As well as the School of Discovery. Those are, that school it's part of this, it's part of the board's responsibility.
Well, I understand that, Ms. Lemon, but the reason we kind of, I guess, neglected to follow up on it was the original realignment of all these schools and stuff was going to eliminate that and just put the alternative school in the new building down there. So, I mean, that was the original configuration. So with that configuration, that was eliminating that building.
Yes.
So no need to go and, see what it was going to take to fix it up. Because this, like I said, with that moat that's up under there and stuff, and that auditorium, that's going to be major. I don't care how you look at it, because the windows in that auditorium are so fragile until you can't even put window panes in.
Sorry, we'll get to
I'll
that.
go on around and I'll come back.
That's all right.
All right, Mr. Driggers.
I'd like to get back to the $10 million. I know there's a lot of things. I'll get back to that $10 million.
Okay, you just
The
do.
first thing I want to get out, as Lucy said a few minutes ago, this is going to be publicized, so there's things that can't be said. But ladies and gentlemen around the board, we have alternatives to taking that $10 million and building a 30,000 square foot rooms out at BIS. There are some other alternatives that we can take and use that money for some other things. I don't know when or how we can do it, but we need to get this board together somewhere where we can talk about it candidly, not out here where it's going to be on the internet, but let's talk about this before we commit $10 million to 30,000 square feet of building. And that's what I'm hearing. So let's talk about it a little bit. There's some alternatives that we can do some different things and still get the same thing accomplished. New schools for our children. I'm just, like I said, I'm just sitting here and I'm going to ask the board. I don't know how we're going to do it, Chair, but we've got to get together and talk candidly amongst ourselves.
Tonight, there's an executive session,
That's fine.
and that can be discussed.
Please stay with me. Don't want anybody to leave me till I talk with you, okay? Thank you.
Mr. Branch.
I just kind of got here late, so
It's okay.
I'll
Everything okay?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want me to come back to you, or?
No, I'll let you know if I have anything.
Okay. All right, Mr. Coachman.
Think everything been said.
All right. I have a few things I want to say. I kind of look at things a little differently than you all do, because you each are focused on one area. But what I'd like to see us do is adopt a way of doing maintenance and looking at buildings. And also in the way we look at how we decide, our values, so to speak. And the first is safety. And I want you to know that at 3 o'clock this afternoon, we were working on the safety program we're doing, and there's a grant we can go after. It was $1 million, wasn't it? $1 million. The deadline is May 7th. We're going to go for that. And it involves the equipment, and it can do a whole lot of things if we get awarded. So that's possibly not as big a crisis as we would have if we didn't have access to this grant. Mr. Williams, John Williams, found the grant for us. And anyway, but I'd like for us to try to focus on safety first, secondly, the academic environment, and thirdly, the sports environment. We haven't got the academic environment tended to enough, and that's a concern for me. And then with maintenance, if we can remember to start with roofs first, if they need repair, to do roofs. If you don't have a roof, you're going to have bigger problems underneath. And then mechanical. And I don't care whether it's electrical, plumbing, HVAC, or HVAC, electrical, plumbing, or whatever, but the mechanical things second. And thirdly, put things like marquees and beautifying and those things third. And as for the School of Discovery, I know when we sat in the strategic planning thing, it was mentioned that the roof was messed up during Matthew. And was there an insurance claim done or not?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
Would you like to speak to that?
No, there wasn't. I said it was in bad shape before that.
Well, I want to give you an example of what can be done in a circumstance like that. The roof on one of my barns was the ugliest thing in the southeast. It was pitiful, absolutely pitiful. But it was further damaged in Matthew. The insurance man came in. I didn't even mention the roof. He was looking at the other things that I thought were more legitimate. He said, that roof got damaged. You need a new roof. He paid for a whole new metal roof and put one on a turnout shed and so on. So it's wise to do an insurance claim.
And I want to second that while you're talking about that. This came up several months ago. I spoke to you, Dr. Lane, about it. Having an insurance company come out and look at the School of Discovery roof, and let's just see what the estimate is. It'll give us some information on how many squares we've got out there and what we need to do. And I do want to talk about the School of Discovery in a little while. We'll do that, but I want to second that. You know, all they can do is say no, or they might say, yeah, we can do this.
I didn't even ask for a roof. He gave me a roof. Because I thought, like you did, that the roof, that roof was in bad shape and had been for years. But a few shingles were knocked off in various places and I got a whole new roof. So anyway, I think if when we're looking at our decisions about what we're going to do where we've got limited funds, if we remember that if we've got a bad roof, the roof comes first, and then the mechanical things second, and the extra things come third. Or I think that's how we should do it. Y'all may disagree and may vote me down, but it bears saying.
Question.
Okay. Yes.
I want to, okay, the School of Discovery is 96 years old, correct? Is that you said? 97. How many years was it not occupied? Can you recall anybody?
Ms. Fleming, if I may interject, we have taken a look at the School of Discovery. Mr. Brown has been out there just this last week, and just as to try to go and find out how much we're talking about, because we've had a lot of discussion about the School of Discovery. And I want to pass out a sheet here that Mr. Brown has prepared. I don't have enough for everybody. If you could share. Mr. Woods has one. Tim, could you come forward and talk about the School of Discovery just a little bit? We won't take long, but the Facilities Committee met and talked about it.
I planned an hour and a half so we could get this done right, and we have 25 minutes to go. We're good to go.
Okay.
Here we go.
20 minutes?
Yeah. Keep going.
2.
Just 2. You got 5. How about that?
Whatever you need.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, pass that one to him and you and I can look on. I didn't mean to just take one. Okay, Mr. Brown, go for it.
Go ahead.
Go.
Oh, you?
Why don't you talk about School of Discovery?
Okay. The
I
school.
have passed out the list, okay.
All right, yes, ma'am. The School of Discovery, I think, was built in 1922 or something. Is that right, Dr. McLeod? It was in the 20s. How long it had been empty, I don't know. The school did close for a period of time. I do recall that. I just don't know the time frame. But the roof is not a flat roof. It is a A-frame roof, as you can see in that photograph there. There is wind damage to the roof itself. The shingles are blown off on every section of that roof.
That's good. Needs a whole roof.
Yes, ma'am. And I would recommend that you contact the insurance company and have an adjuster at least look at it or assess it and let him make the call. But there are a few leaks. There are 2 leaks we were told by the staff at the district or at the School of Discovery. One is working itself into rotting out part of the fascia board and soffit in one area, and then there's another leak in a nurse's not the nurses, but the room
office for
104
Ms.
office,
Cardenas.
right, whatever that room was. The rest of the issues that we looked at were pointed out to us by the staff. And I know Mr. Wood says others have shared things with him that I don't have on that list that I prepared. But most of those could be done, I think, for not a lot of money, and could be done with the district's maintenance if we could get into their schedule and add a few a week or something, however Dr. McLeod could work that out. The older part of the building needs the most work. The newer part was built, I think Dr. Sherbine might have.
Dr. Brayboy, actually.
Well, Dr. Sherbine was here when we demoed
Yes, back.
the gymnasium where the new portion's built.
Right.
But at any rate, there were 2 barred units that have issues. One in the music room was not working, and another one in the art room had a leak. But I believe that could have been if the coils froze up and then defrosted and didn't and leaked into the building. That roof also needs to be looked at. Also, the eaves of I'm not sure the directions to this, probably the south side, looked like it's gotten some wind damage there also. I'd have them look at it while they were here, and let them make the call. Underneath the auditorium, there's a basement area, has the old boiler unit, the actual boiler is still there, and it did have water, about 10 inches of water in the floor. Right. And that sump pump did not appear to be working right now for whatever reason. But I would recommend you do something a little different than what has been done in the past. And I would dig a small pit, 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot deep, and put a pump in there and leave your motor above it so the water won't get to the motor even if it stops up. And then if there is concern of underneath, I haven't looked underneath the floor of the gym, but that could be waterproofed enough to where you could keep it from any moisture migrating up. I don't know what the issues are, and I haven't looked at that. We tried, it was water foot deep, and I didn't feel like
Stepping in it.
stepping in the water. But the rest of the things were not, the majority of the things on the list I put down that could be handled with the staff of the district. Maintenance, yes.
I mean, there was, I remember this picture vividly in that presentation during the SACS thing. There was a toilet that had a toilet seat missing. That's really not contractor stuff. You put a new toilet seat on.
Yes, ma'am. There were some commode issues that were stopped up at that school, and that could be due to the drain line or the main line going to the city.
We discussed that because they will flush, but they say when children use them, it will stop up. So we're thinking now, having seen that we will request that the Clio City, and Mr. Woods has shared in that area, there have been some problems there with the city line. We're hoping that may be it. If they can clean out that line, we won't have that problem.
So it may be the main line needs to be
Routed out.
Routed, roto-rooted.
Whoops, sorry.
And Mr. Wood says his mother lives in that area, and she's had problems with hers also. So it could be a city issue problem, more so than the district issue. But there should be a clean out there, and we ought to be able to have that checked.
Deal with the issue of the windows that we saw.
The only 2 windows I looked at where they weren't windows anymore. They had just boarded up on either side, on the right side as you go into the auditorium. Doctor, I didn't look at the left side. Are those windows? Okay, it was just the one on the right side, and they were taken out for safety and just boarded up. those are kind of narrow windows but tall, but I mean, you know,
Get a new window made.
you can get them, made. You could put in the vinyl windows, have
Those
two of
people
those.
will make windows any shape and length and width you want.
You don't have a problem money can't solve down
That's
there.
right.
I do want to mention that the auditorium, Tim and I went into the auditorium, and I just want to share with you, it's a beautiful space. If you haven't been there, they were putting on a play at the time, and the audio was great, and according to the staff there, they put on a program every 9 weeks there. So it's very, it's unlike the auditorium at BIS. This is an operative, good space. If we can fix that basement area and, you know, stop any water damage that might be coming, that would be, and you think that, I mean, what are we talking here?
Well, to put in the proper type sump pump, I would remove the old boiler and the old piping just to get it out of there. And then, you know, $1,500 or something. I mean, it's not major.
$1,500. And if we did the roof, even if we've replaced the whole roof, what are we talking about there?
What I did on the roof was I estimated I took the square footage of the building that was in one of the assessments that was done. It was like 17,000 square feet, 17,000, and I doubled it to take into consideration the two halves of each side of the A's on the roofs. And then I multiplied it by the number, I took the number of squares and then multiplied those to the recent bids that were given to the high school field house. We just had that, they just had that re-roofed. And so we had fresh bids. And I'm doing my memory, but it's like $160 a square. And it came to about $55,000. You know, and that would put you a new roof, I believe, on that building now.
So, Mr. Brown, you saying to fix the basement where the water coming in, you saying about $1,500?
Well, I'm saying for the sump pump, yes, sir, and the pit. I wasn't talking about whatever else may be needed, because I hadn't looked at the flooring under that auditorium. I don't know what's there.
So, Dr. McClellan, how bad is it down there? When you have to go down there with something to go on, how bad is it?
Well, it's been wet as long as I've been going down there to see it.
Okay.
I haven't ever seen it dry. So,
Well, I know I got a call that a river was running through my mother's house in Montreat. I nearly had a heart attack. It was coming from a city pipe, and literally a river of water was going through. And we got the water stopped outside, and the sump pump sucked it up and took it on out, and it's still good. Sump pumps do a good job if you have a good one.
Well, I'd buy a commercial type sump pump is what I'd recommend you buy.
I'm about like Mr. Jerkers. I think we need to really talk about some stuff because I just don't see a 97-year-old building and we keep patching on. I just think our kids deserve better than that.
And where's the funding source to come
I
from?
don't know. We just have to find out. That's why I say I think we just need to talk, because there might be other options. And we did have it solved, but we went with the refrigeration. Those kids would not be in that building, and the AMI kids would be in the newer part. So I'm just saying what I feel and what I think.
I do want to share, and I'm sorry for taking so much time, but I have talked to many parents at School Discovery. I've talked to the teachers. They want to stay there, and they want to stay there very much. And so I was surprised at what good shape the building was in after all the things I've heard. I just want to share that with you. I'm there, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, boy, this can be fixed for a reasonable amount, apparently. Now, there may be some hidden things that we haven't located yet, but it looked pretty straightforward to me, and certainly within our maintenance budget to do it. So that's why I'm asking him about these numbers and what needs to be done. So,
this was the same thing when we were talking. We started this thing with BIS last year in April, about a year ago. We argued all the summer, all the fall, and then suddenly last month we realized that we needed to do something. We could have maybe solved that problem then. Said, we have a problem at BIS, let's go ahead and do it, let's look at a referendum. But we argued the whole year, we had the community riled up. We were saying some wanted to stay there, the students wanted to stay. So now we're at this point where we're saying hopefully the voters will accept the referendum. I hope they will. But it comes a point where we have to, as a board, Ms. Fairman, she's asking a lot of districts to consolidate their services, do some things, and we have to look at the population shift here and maybe eliminate some of these buildings that eliminates the utilities, the staff. And I don't think we're really looking at that as a board too much. We're looking at too much. I'm not sure what it is, but we could have had this BIS solved maybe several months back. And we still haven't got it solved, but at least we kind of on a solution where we admit there is a problem. There is a problem at BIS. Now we are trying to fix it. We are saying the school in Claudia, we're saying that it's okay, there's nothing wrong. The parents want to stay there. I'm just not buying that. As a board, I think we could have been further down the road with BIS had we accepted the fact that there is a problem there and moved towards solving it. Now we're doing that, and I'm very happy that this board is moving in that direction. I'm not sure I know when I looked through this here, and I was looking for the school discovery, and I didn't see anything. That's why I asked Mr. McCloud the question. There's no doubt that it's toilets not working. That's a simple issue that maybe could be fixed, but we don't know. And Mr. McCloud said every time he goes to the floor is wet, constantly wet, that means rot. So I don't know, but I think this board, let us not spend 8 months discussing several months about that school and then realize, yeah, we need to do something.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody else? I didn't call on you before. All right.
Madam Chairperson.
Yes.
Thank you. Members of the board, and I know this is your workshop, but I have one item I really want to ask you to consider. And I respect all that you said, and I agree. I'm going to be, complicit with all that you said, with one exception. I want to ask you to please look at that marquee at the high school. Either give us.
I wasn't meaning to attack your marquee.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I'm just asking on behalf of the students, the teachers, and the community. That's our flagship school. And I spent 6 years in the Navy, and I was on a destroyer. That's not the flagship of the fleet. The flagship is our carrier. And trust me,
You know the difference.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Ms. Anisha.
I said, you know the difference, don't you? Yes.
So I'm asking you to please either help us fix that marquee or give us permission to at least disassemble it or something until it is fixed. And the reason I'm saying this, when we invite others to come to our district and they drive up to that high school, that's what they see. And we're better than that.
If there are no buckets in the commons when it rains, then maybe the marquee could be worked in. I wasn't meaning to attack your marquee.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thank you.
If y'all want to have a bathroom break, could we adjourn now? And then we'll reconvene in a few minutes. Mr. Coachman, you ready to do your job?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn this workshop.
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, we're adjourned. Thank y'all. I'm glad we had a few minutes extra rather